Hey, this is Rachel Friedman, and you are listening to The Wellness Boss. Look, the entry bar in the coaching industry is really low. So to compete in the coaching industry, you have to be really fucking good at your craft. That's why every week I will be sharing my tips, tools, and stories to help you become the best coach possible for your clients. Truthfully, guys, let's be real. This is the backbone of your business, and it's what's going to make you a sought-after coach with a thriving business. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Wellness Boss. I have a very special guest with me today on the podcast. Probably someone who knows me better than I would say almost anyone in the world, except for maybe my mother. I have my dad on the podcast with me today, Ron Siegel. And my dad, Ron Siegel, has been, I would say, one of my biggest, if not my biggest cheerleader along the last 20 plus years of entrepreneurship. And I'm excited to just speak with him, talk with him about what it was like to support me and still is, both I would say emotionally and sometimes financially along the way. But also my dad is a really amazing businessman and was CFO of a company for many, many years. And I can't wait for him to give you some of his top tips for all you new business owners on what you can do out there to hopefully help set yourself up for success. So, Dad, tell them a little bit about where you live, and what it was like raising me.
Okay. Well, we lived most of our adult life in the Washington, D.C. area in Northern Virginia. And Rachel was always very intense about doing well.
True statement.
So when she was in school, I'll never forget, we would spend hours at night going over, me testing her about making sure she got everything right, because God forbid she wouldn't get an A.
Yeah, a little bit of a perfectionist growing up, and probably took some of that into my adult life. Much better though now.
Right.
Thank God.
But so that was pretty much what we went through. And then she went to college, she got a couple of degrees.
Definitely collected those.
Didn't really use them that much.
Use it now.
Now she is. That's true. It took a while for her to find her passion, I guess you would call it. And she always was good at seeing things, taking advantage of things, and working hard at it.
Yes, I would agree. So, Dad, now you're in where? Palm Beach?
Now we live in South Florida in the Palm Beach area. We moved from Washington. I finally convinced my wife to sell our house up north. We were, before that, being snowbirds, going back and forth every 6 months. And about 5 years ago, we sold our house and moved to South Florida permanently. So it works out well because in our family, Rachel has a brother and her sister, and they both live in Florida. So this made it a very easy decision for us.
And Dad, tell them like what your days are filled with now.
Oh, now my days are filled with my new job, which is perfecting my golf game, which is not great, but not terrible.
It's a skill. It's a practice, right?
You definitely have to practice it. Like anything, you have to work at it. And I enjoy it. I enjoy being outdoors. I was always into sports, even as a kid, and maintained it. I mean, they used to tease me because when Rachel was growing up, I'd go off and play softball.
Yes, I remember the days of watching Dad play softball.
So as a
Now I'm still doing that, Dad. Now I just
That's
watch
right. Now
Julia
you
play
just watch your
softball.
daughter play.
Oh, I don't know.
Some
Think
things don't change.
no, I'm never gonna get away from it.
Right. And yeah, so I spend my days doing that. We spend our days, you know, doing things around the house, going out. The weather is nice here most of the year, so that works out well for us. And we do a bit of travel.
Where'd you just come back from?
Just came back from Italy. It was a great trip through parts of Italy I'd never been to, up in the northern part of Italy. So it was good.
And haven't officially announced to everyone yet, but Dad's also going to India in
Yes.
November with my mom and leaving me a space to lead an amazing coaching skills event. So more about that coming at a later date. So Dad, what has it been like over, believe it or not, it's been 20 years since I first started that personal training business.
Yep.
I was 20, I want to say I was probably about 23, 24 years old, till now 46. Oh God, scary to say out loud. What has it been like kind of supporting me in that journey? Because I'm the only kid that kind of has this entrepreneurship drive.
So Rachel, you know, when she graduated college and got her graduate degree, it was in social work. And she tried that for a few years and found that wasn't her thing.
Yeah, I think it was more that it was just so heartbreaking, and it was a lot of work for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah.
it was interesting. She was living in the Washington area at the time, in Maryland, actually, near us. And she decided to become a personal trainer, which was sort of a, says, well, why did you go to 5 years of college and spend $500,000?
Didn't know.
So anyway, but yeah, it worked out well for her. She got a lot of clients, some fairly well known, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out well for her. She was happy and it was doing well. And then a few things changed, and her husband at the time decided to move to Atlanta, and that sort of ruined her personal training business, since most people aren't going to travel 500 miles.
No, most people don't even want to travel more than 5, I learned after I moved.
So when she got to Atlanta, her other thing she was into at the time was yoga. So, you know, she and I talked a bit, and she said, what do you think if I open a yoga studio? Because she was teaching yoga, I guess, at the time in a couple of locations. And she found a partner, which was good and bad.
Right, mixed.
She learned a lesson about how to work with a partner in a business, which I think was a very valuable lesson. Most people don't get to learn. Because when I went to work, I wasn't exactly an entrepreneur, but I went to work for a private, you know, company that was run by 2 guys, and it was like a entrepreneurial business. So they knew nothing about finance. I was the finance guy, and they were the merchants, so you know, it was a good partnership between us, and we did really well. And grew that business at the time from about 5 or 6. These were men's clothing stores in the Washington area called Riches of Georgetown. We grew those from about 5 to about 25 stores over about 8 years, and it was a very successful company. But then the 2 owners decided they wanted to cash out, so I took my cash out too and moved on to another privately owned company, because I did like working for privately owned companies. I found I had a lot of freedom. I could do what I want. I could make decisions without a lot of bureaucracy. And I think Rachel felt the same way about running her own business, where she had control over her destiny and what, you know, So you make decisions, and whether they're good or bad,
At least just only falls on you.
only falls on you. You can't blame anybody else.
For sure. Still experiencing that on a pretty much day-to-day basis.
So Rachel's yoga studio did well. It grew over a few years. Yeah. But working with her partner wasn't the best thing for her or her partner, probably.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. We just met and got married basically and had a baby. That's what I always like to say.
So they eventually they got what I would call a business divorce. And Rachel sold her shares back to her partner and decided she wanted to do it on her own instead of with a partner. So she so I helped her find a location, and we created a business plan, and she did take on another partner.
Yeah, bad. Don't do that. Learn from your first mistake, guys. Don't do it again.
She repeated.
That is literally the definition of insanity.
Right. So, and unfortunately, the other partner was actually a good partner to start with.
We just had different.
She then had a baby and a family, and her life changed basically, which I can't blame her.
Things happen,
but it didn't make for a good business partnership
anymore.
Anymore. So again, we sold. I helped her negotiate a deal, and we sold her share of the business. And I'm not sure if the other girl sold her share or not at the end of the day.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I think COVID closed everything down at some point.
Yeah, that's right. Then about a year later, COVID hit, and the whole business had to basically shut down like everything. And that was a real problem. But so after Rachel sold her second business, I think she decided that she liked running her own business, but she didn't want to do it with a partner. And because of COVID, found that you didn't have to invest in a facility to do business. Yeah. So that's where she found this life coaching process, I call it. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of a process. I would agree. So, Dad, what would you say, like, along the last 20 years was the most challenging part in terms of supporting me? And what would you say was, like, I'll say the most exciting or easiest part?
Well, challenging was probably just continuing, have to encourage her to do whatever she wanted and not be restricted to things she didn't want to do, both in personal life and in business. Because I found if you didn't enjoy what you were working at, it was a real drag.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And everything in life, I think.
Yeah. And that was most important to me in my whole life. I mean, pretty much. I always worked at a place I enjoyed working. And my wife would tell you I worked too hard at it. Yes. Spent a lot of hours. I mean, I would probably work 12 hours a day helping build the business because I was just really into it. And being part owner in most cases, even though it was a small part, it was important to me to succeed. My whole family, everybody had to succeed. That was drilled into us by my mother and father.
Yes, that's in the unconscious patterns of our family, I would say. Yeah.
So, the most enjoyable part was helping Rachel follow her passion and make decisions that ended up being successful for her, and seeing that happen.
So if someone's listening and is maybe in the newer stages of getting their business up and started, is there any advice you would give them?
Well, yeah, I mean, in any business, the biggest problem most new businesses have, they don't have a plan. They don't know what their goals are. If you don't have a plan and how to achieve your goals, you're just going to go in circles, basically. And so the first step I always felt was, know what your goals are, create a plan to achieve it, and then act on it. Don't just let it sit on a shelf. I mean, when I first got out of school, I got an MBA at Northwestern and went to work for a big consulting firm, and they taught me a lot. But the first thing I learned was one of our big jobs was working for the federal government, creating a system to help them manage their prisons in the country. And we spent a year working with Department of, I think it was HEW at that time, Health, Education, and Welfare.
I don't think that exists anymore, does
Probably
it?
not. Probably not. And we actually worked with the secretary to the cabinet, the president. So it was interesting. It was a guy named Robert Finch at the time. And we presented him a report and said, here's all the steps you need. Here's your plan. Here's all the steps you need to do to make it work. And with the government, the report sat on a shelf and nothing ever
I was going to say nothing happened.
Nothing happened. I said, that was the most frustrating thing I ever dealt with. Because I was used to saying, okay, here's what we want to do. Now let's just do it. And if you make mistakes along the way, that's okay. You learn from your mistakes. Just, what I used to always tell the guys I worked with, I says, I don't care how many mistakes you make. Just don't take risks that'll bankrupt you and learn from your mistakes and go on to do something else. Because even at work, I would never forget, I would hire some consultants to do certain things. And they were brilliant people, but couldn't decide to do anything.
So I always say it's the biggest business, what would be the word? Like
the biggest fault of a lot of people, besides not having a plan to start with, the biggest problem most people have in business is being afraid to act.
They can't make decisions. I always say you need to become a decision ninja.
That's right.
Where you have to be willing to make the wrong decision.
That's right.
And long as you can see, like my dad just said, that every decision has a lesson in it.
Yep.
And it's learning how to love yourself through those decisions. Because if you start to beat yourself up, it's going to be really hard to get back up and keep going.
If you're afraid to make decisions, you shouldn't be in business. I mean, just work for somebody that's going to take the risk.
I would say if you're afraid to make decisions, step one is why? Why are you afraid to make decisions? And it's probably because you're afraid of what you're going to say and do to yourself. You're afraid
of failure in
most
cases.
Right. You're afraid of what's going to happen when you make a wrong decision.
Right.
And you're afraid of, most people unconsciously are afraid of what they're going to look like.
Right.
And that they're then going to be basically ostracized, very primitive. And if you can learn how to love yourself through that process, no decision is actually going to kill you.
Right.
The only decision that can actually kill you, well, God forbid a million trillion times, as my husband would say, would be one that you actually take against yourself. But any other decision in business.
Well, in business, I felt, okay, you create this plan and you act on it, but you have to understand in your plan what I used to call critical success factors. If you don't know what, my wife, if you don't know what in your business is, the most critical factors that make it successful, you're gonna probably not be successful because you will take the wrong risk. Taking risk is fine. You just have to know which ones to take.
Would you say, Dad, that you've seen, something I believe is that if you're really passionate about what you do, and that you can't just be passionate, you have to actually be skilled at it. And you have to master that skill, that in combination with then being able to make lots of decisions, whether they all work out or not, is plus having goals. I agree. That's the first thing we do in my program is we set goals for the next 6 months, is a good foundation to help set you up for success.
No question about it. And, because I was in a business, unlike Rachel, where she's a single employee.
Solopreneur.
Right.
I have one employee. Well, she's a consultant.
We had thousands of employees, so it was a bit different. And what I used to say is, with the people I worked with, is just make sure you get the right people on the bus to drive the right decisions. So, like Rachel said, you got to have people you have to rely on people to get things done. You can't do everything yourself.
I'm so glad my dad said that, because I think so many people, myself included, when we're getting started, or you've got a baby business, it's very hard to see that I need support and to hire people for support. And a lot of times I know myself, I was afraid to put money out without money coming in. But sometimes getting that support is what's going to actually propel you, give you the momentum to go forward faster.
Absolutely.
Because we're not good at everything. And I've learned you're really so much better off focusing on what you're really good at and learning how to delegate the things that you're not as good at to other people.
Yeah, that's 100% right. In any business, I mean, you have to not be you have to understand that you can't be perfect at everything. Okay. And while you might be better than the person, you may or may not be better than the person that you hired to do certain things. It's okay. I mean, you've got to focus on what you do well, hire the right people to do the other things, and give them some rope so that they can do it. Don't try to control every little thing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That, I think, for a lot of new business people and entrepreneurs that are just getting started, and maybe this is your first whirlwind in it is one of the harder things to let go of that control.
Absolutely.
And it really just comes down to, you have to trust.
That's
you
right.
have to trust in them, but you also have to trust, I believe, that there's something actually even bigger out there that's going to help support all of you. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay. Just like my business partnership didn't work out, you'll learn from it. Don't do it twice, people. And then move on. And then you'll find someone else. Like, the first person may not be the most successful.
So, and following up on that, you you make your decisions, but you need some sort of feedback mechanism so that you know whether what you decided is working or not working. Okay.
100%.
So, in our business, we had to create different kinds of reports to know. And Rachel's business, she gets feedback from Facebook or wherever it is to.
Actually, it's interesting, because our call last night with my group was all about feedback, because one of the things we do in our program in terms of growing your skills as a coach is, I really believe, in order to grow any skill, you have your own blind spots, and you can't necessarily see what you can't see. So part of the power of the group is that one person provides feedback to the other people. So one person coaches another person, sometimes on our calls, and then someone else, myself and someone else, will provide feedback. But we were talking about, before we actually start doing the feedback, I have a whole process so it's effective and productive, because feedback can often be taken misdirected. And I think it's important to learn how to give and receive feedback.
I mean, communication is one of the biggest benefits and challenges in running a business.
Yeah.
I mean, we learned through experience that the most important skill was being able to listen, what they call active listening.
Active listening. Yeah, we teach that in coaching too.
Where, you can listen to someone, don't interrupt them, let them say whether you agree or disagree. That's okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And, then have a discussion from there. And at the end, and in every business I was involved in, after you get to some point, you hear all sides of it, make a decision and get everybody on board so that everybody's marching in the same direction.
Yeah, I would agree.
Otherwise, it's very disruptive.
Yes, very chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would agree that open communication, active listening, no matter what your business is really essential. And as my dad and I were saying before, along with when you're getting started, actually, I wouldn't even say just when you're getting started. I do it quarterly.
The whole journey.
Yeah, I would say quarterly. It's really important. Find a date, sit down with yourself. If you don't have a team, set some goals for the quarter. Get your head in the right place, because your head always wants to talk you out of everything, because that's just how our heads for the most part are wired. And then, like my dad said, once you have those goals set and you set out, I always say, look at what are all the obstacles you think you're going to come up against. Find the obstacles, turn them into strategies, take those strategies, and don't just sit on it, because just sitting on it is the death of your business. You have to be willing to fail. Coming from what would you say, at a recovering perfectionist. When the more you let yourself fail, the more you'll get over that perfectionism. Right. I promise. But you have to just take that one degree shift, that one step each time, and it gets easier. I promise. You get over it. You learn that, as one of my mentors said, B minus work, B minus work in the world of business, and then learn from it, get the feedback, apply it, go back after it.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in our business, I mean, it was funny. We were expanding fairly rapidly and we would open locations, and some people would just go crazy if a location didn't succeed. And I said, no, that's not the way to look at it. You know, if 9 out of 10 work, we're going to do real well. Right. So, we would open 100 locations and 10 of them would fail. But everything, when you added up the big picture, it all worked.
Oh, so good, right? So if it's the same, guys, if you're a coach listening, I know a lot of coaches listen to the podcast, but remember, it's the same thing with your consults. Not every single one has to be a yes.
Right.
But if you learn from the no's, you'll get more yeses. So collect your no's to get your yeses.
That's right. So, so you have a certain percentage.
That's right.
Of winning, and don't worry about the ones you don't.
Yeah. Just let them be. But I always say, let them be, but look at them. You got to learn from them. You can't just ignore them. If you just ignore them, you'll do what I did and you'll do the same thing. You'll keep repeating the same mistake.
Right.
And the best way is to sit down and actually evaluate. I always say, what do I want to keep doing? What do I want to stop doing? And what should I start?
Yep.
Give yourself a kiss. Call it KSS. So
keep it simple, right?
Yeah, keep it simple. That's another way for kiss. Yeah. Okay, so Dad, anything else that you want to tell them, leave them with?
No, I mean, just whether you're one person or you've got a group of people, it's just important to to have a plan, act on it, listen, get feedback, and be able to measure whether you're accomplishing your goals or not.
And Dad, would you also say the one other thing I want to add, because my dad has been so supportive of me over the years and always been an ear for me to go ask questions, very much a mentor. Of course, now I have other mentors too, but would you agree? I believe that is a huge value, that it helps. Doing it on your own, it's not that you can't, but having support is going to propel you forward.
Yeah.
Whether it's you've got an amazing dad to have support from, or a mentor or a coach. You
have to have a team to work, because nobody can do everything themselves.
Absolutely. So find your support team and make sure that you do these things and you'll be bound for success.
That's right.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening to my conversation with me and my dad, Ron Siegel, today. If you have any questions for my dad or want some financial advice, reach out to me and I will send you his number. Although he is retired and, like he said, he's mastering the art of the golf swing. So he may or may not have time for you. But everyone, have a wonderful week and I'll see you next time. Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. Bye. Good luck.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Wellness Boss. If you want to learn more about my work, come visit me at rachelbethcoaching.com. That's Rachel minus the extra A, bethcoaching.com. I hope you'll have the most fantastic week. Don't forget to subscribe and review and to share this podcast with all your friends. See you next week. Namaste.